Thank you very much, Instagram. Instagram, once again, 2 days in a row, gave me the boot. Let's try this again. Erika, I hope you weren't talking for that whole time. Michael, Pete, Erika, there she is. Sorry about that. Waiting for Erika. Come on in. Connecting.
We're back.
Erika, I'm terribly sorry. It happened yesterday. First time
Oh,
ever with Chris Como. Instagram, where the app just crashed and went away. And
it's okay.
sorry about that.
We'll just
Uh, we
start over.
we didn't really give it much good stuff yet, anyway. So we
No,
can we can start from here. We can start from here.
sounds good.
Um, I really like what you were saying because it is going to open people's eyes to a different way of doing things. And I know this personally. The best stuff that's ever happened to me as a coach professionally has been born in adversity. And as much as I dislike and I shall not seek out adversity, when it comes along and finds me and us and everybody, I really have found that it encourages me as just as a coach and a professional, a business person. It encourages me to think outside the box, and it pushes me and it motivates me. It kicks me into gear, and it says you better figure out a different way to do this. And I really am sensing some of that. I've thoroughly enjoyed these lockdown learning sessions. I've got more coming up this week, and it's been so enlightening. And like you said, I think a lot of this type of thing is going to remain. It's going to keep going.
Yeah, I think that our in-person summits are great for that networking that happens between speakers, but really watching a speaker in person and watching them virtually isn't too much different. So I think we are going to see a lot more virtual education pieces. I know in our MAPGA section, Mark Russo and a couple of guys, we all got together and put some stuff out for our section, and it was really well received, So we would be
Yeah.
doing stuff in the spring anyway, so let's just knock it out. And it's been
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Erika, tell us a little bit about yourself. I was reading up. I've known you for quite a few years, but there was some stuff I didn't know, and it was very interesting. I was reading up about you. You never know what you can find online. It was all good stuff. It was all good stuff. Um, can you tell people who are watching a little bit about yourself and how you got started in golf, which I think is super cool?
Thanks. Yeah, I grew up in Queens, New York, and my parents were not golfers. And they decided they wanted to try golf when I was about 8 years old. I was an only child. So we went to like a little pitch and putt course in Queens near Shea Stadium and the US Tennis Center. And it was from the World's Fair. So it was a really kind of muni, basic level little pitch and putt. And we didn't know what we were doing and just kind of tried golf and literally had fun, took it there, went regularly. And I hate to say it, but like the rest is history. We eventually went to a driving range. My mom threw me into some junior clinics that she found out about. And then I started playing in the Met Section Junior Tour events in the summer, and, eventually met somebody that kind of took me under his wing and said, you should play in college. And then that happened. And I just kind of went with it. And golf to me was so different as growing up in the city. And it was something we had to make an effort to go and do, that it was
Yeah.
special. And as a girl growing up in the early 90s, playing golf at that time, there weren't that many of us. It certainly, junior golf has exploded over the years. There's a lot more girls playing now, but I was one of a few, and I was definitely the only one of my friends that played. So it was just like something special. And I felt that, being a girl in golf was something I wanted to explore
Yeah.
for life. And it was the activity of all the things that I tried growing up, different sports and different skills that I had learned that I just connected with, and I felt there was opportunity there. So when I went through school and I got out of school, I played golf in college at James Madison University, but knew when I was graduating that like playing professionally wasn't something I wanted to do, nor like should I try to do. I just knew I wasn't at that level, didn't
Yeah.
have the fire to do it. But I definitely wanted to be in golf. And with a marketing degree, I got into the golf business, got into management, and worked at golf courses in sales and marketing, and got roped into some teaching just for extra money. And that was like the pivot point, because I'd always been kind of a golf swing nerd because I was fairly self-taught. Like my parents and I we explored on our own how to play.
Yeah.
And I had very, very minimal coaching. And when I had coaching, it was less about golf swing and more about, just how to, what books I should read, and, maybe, what tournaments I should play in, and things like that. So it was more mentoring than it was like swing coaching. So
Yeah.
a lot of the swing stuff that I learned was out of books and out of magazines and stuff that I tried. And so when I got to coaching myself, coaching other people, it was just pulling from all of that stuff that I had tried, and what worked for me, and some really old school themes that I had connected with. And, I just enjoyed it so much that I felt like teaching and coaching was so fun. I was seeing results with people on a beginner level that I was encouraged to explore that. And I had a colleague tell me, join the PGA, get your certification. So I said, all right, I'm young and like have the time to do it. So I left my marketing job and became an assistant professional, and knew that I was going to get into teaching. Like that was the goal at that point. So that's it. That's kind of the story.
Here's the thing. You skipped a couple of things out.
Oh.
And I love just the painting the picture. When I read that yesterday, I was like, man, here's this kid growing up in New York City, and you could see the Empire State Building from where you grew up, and right next to, where the Mets played and all of that. That's a tough place to learn how to play golf, but it happened. And it really just goes to show how and I know in Europe they have a lot of those little pitch and putt type golf courses, and I think they're so important in growing the game and introducing people to the game. They open the door and they say, here, come and try this in a small way. And it's such a cool story. I really, really do like that. But I want to add in something you're not going to say. You're currently the #1 golf teacher in the state of Virginia. Yeah. Which I think is super cool. That's awesome. And you are a director of instruction.
Yes.
Which I think is really, really cool.
Thank you.
Erika, I've followed your Instagram for quite a long time now, and I look at your content and the depths to which you go. I'm kind of ashamed of the stuff that I put out compared to what you put out, because it really is, it is absolutely fantastic. And if anybody's watching this and you don't currently follow Erika, do so straight away. Okay, go and follow her, simply because you're going to get a level of communication, a level of understanding that's exactly what you're trying to get across. And you do a fantastic job. And I know you mentioned that marketing degree. I think that marketing degree, when I read that, I was like, oh, I see now why those Instagram posts are so good. Tell us a little bit about how you got onto social media and how you started to learn how to really send that great message out to golfers and get that message across, really.
So thank you. Thank you so much, Andrew. And thanks for following me. I'm honored. About, I guess, 1.5 years ago, I realized that my social media game wasn't what it should be. And I had been really inconsistent with posting on YouTube. And I felt like I could just do a better job. I had been asked to do content for Golf Digest and Golf Channel and stuff here and there over the years. And I always did a good job with it. But when I produced my own stuff, I felt like it was subpar, and I just wanted to put more energy into it. And it was after I had published a book too, I felt like it was a perfect opportunity. It was a platform for me to like get some of those ideas out more virtually, bring them to life, and market my book. So there's my marketing brain, right? So I started with that as the goal, as a way of, just growing that. But it's funny because when I went out and then started to film myself, and I was doing some observing on Instagram anyway, because I had never really been, posting on it. And I said, what can I do that's a little different, that's going to stand out? And I just started experimenting. It so happened that a couple days that I went to film, it was really windy. My microphone wasn't working properly. And I just threw the camera on. I started doing like some short game stuff and some other things, just showing movement. And I figured, oh, I can always just like voice over maybe on top of this because I don't have time to refilm it. It was kind of fall. It was the end of the season. I didn't know how many more days outside I was going to be filming. So when I went to then take the content and edit it, now this is, I had gotten a new iPhone, and I was downloading a bunch of different apps, which in the past, whenever I had done editing, it was all like on PC. So as I'm looking into all these like new editing apps that I hadn't really explored before, I came across a couple basic ones, free stuff, and I'm messing around with the features. And I was just having a lot of fun being creative and like putting, graphics on and like figuring out what the stickers would do and just like silly stuff. Realized I could put music on top of it, and just kept trying different things, and it became it just organically evolved into this production.
Yeah.
Like literally I was having almost as much fun editing as I was then coming up with ideas to film. And the more I had fun with the whole process, then those creative juices started flowing, and I was taking tips that people were doing and that I've used forever, different drills and hacks and stuff like that, but then reframing it, relabeling it or presenting it in a way that was a little more silly, or again, music, graphics, like just jazzing it up. Yeah. And a lot of nonverbal stuff. Early on, I did mostly, I think the first like 15, 20 tips that I really started doing in my like first phase of Instagram, I don't even think I turned the microphone on at all, because I said, these are like, I'm getting some buzz and traffic, and just go with it. And I have done a lot more verbal tips now, but like, I think that goes well, especially on Instagram, since it's a short format, you only have a minute. And so the more you can, kind of present visually, subtitles, obviously, things like that, like text graphics always seem to work really well. And then of course I got more and more creative, and I've really tried to push the envelope as to how much I can squeeze into a minute. Then I discovered Instagram TV, right? Like, yes. I had more time.
It's like, oh, the shackles are off,
Oh, yeah. So it's been fun to try to figure out what fits different platforms now, and what people like and what I'm getting more response to. So my marketing brain definitely looks at the analytics. I'm looking at who's watching what, and what hits better. And I totally analyze after the fact what I'm doing and what response it's getting. So it kind of then helps me decide what's next. But I also want to do what I like to do. And I think if I'm genuine in that way, then hopefully I'll continue to attract people. So,
and I will say this, it definitely shows that you enjoy not only getting a great message across, but you enjoy the presentation of that message, how you construct and put together this whole message. And there was one post in particular, and I gave you a heads up earlier that I was going to ask you about this. You did, I think this has got to be the greatest Instagram golf post I've ever seen, but I cannot imagine how much time it took you to make this incredible 1 minute of information. And it was something to do with baseball pitching.
Oh,
and yes. I watched that and I was like, oh my gosh, that's like the greatest Instagram minute I've seen. But it's almost like it's a movie. And I can't imagine how long, if you can remember, how long did that post take you to create?
Was it the one where I was on the baseball field?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And there was all kinds of pictures and videos, and I mean, that was big.
Yeah. Okay, so it's funny. I actually had an idea to do a baseball series of videos because the Nats were in the World Series this fall. So I wanted to like tap into, the moment, right, and capitalize on that. And so I started filming some baseball tips at the golf course one day, and I had an idea for like 2 or 3 that were just off the top of my head I knew I could do.
Yeah.
And I went home and I started editing them, and I said, I don't know, like something's missing. And I had some time before, work one day that week, and I was like, I'm going to the baseball field. So I stopped off at my son's, little league field on the way to work, and it was quiet. Nobody was there. It was like a weekday morning. I set up the camera. I had my Nats jersey on. It was my son's. And I don't know, it's just like did the 4 or 5 tips that I knew I wanted to do. And then went home and then it was the editing process. But I think the pitching one, yeah, I can't remember. I did a few of them, which one specifically you liked, but I did montage some stuff that I had found off
Yeah.
YouTube of, commentators talking about pitches and like
Yeah.
different things. And so I wanted to really make that correlation because there's so many golfers out there that are former baseball players that I
Yeah.
felt like they would connect with the information.
Mm.
And analogies are just so huge for me. I mean, anytime I can make one, I do. And sometimes I feel like they're a real stretch, but I just want to do it anyway.
Yeah. It's amazing to me how, as a coach, if I can paint a picture for somebody, and invariably the weirder the picture, the more they're likely they are to remember it. The more unusual the picture, they'll go, oh, I remember this. I'm still working on it. You'll see a golfer a year down the road and they'll go, I'm still working on this weird thing you told me. And so that was really an amazing piece. But I'm thinking to myself, you must have put 3 hours at least into that minute. No?
Well, I'm more efficient now. Like I really have a handle on using the app. So okay, filming it, then you have the footage, then in my head, I storyboard it. I don't know, maybe that's a gift that I have that I just see what I want to do. So I get all the clips in order in my little editing software, and then I have fun with it. Then it's just how fancy do I want to get with like, transitions and like graphics and stuff. But once I have all the clips and they're laid out in the order, it like tells that little story. I feel like it's not too hard collecting and putting the clips together, and it maybe an hour. I don't know. Like,
okay,
it's not 10 minutes, but it's not like.
I got to tell you, it's awesome. It really is great, and it's so impactful. It certainly was to me looking at it. I think I sent you a message after I saw that. I said, "This is unbelievable. It really is." And so many of your tips are like that.
Thank you.
We've got a little bit of a parallel here. In 2009, due to the adversity of the economic downturn, I decided to write a book. And so I'm sure I read some of the same things you read, and I said, we've got to market and promote this book. So I created what was quite novel back in those days, a website for myself. Because the purpose of the website was not to talk about Andrew Rice, but it was to help market and get the word about the book out there. Well, a couple of years down the road, the website's way more popular than the book would ever become. But it was amazing how writing this book, this labor of love, and now, it's a massive undertaking. I always thought that people who wrote books must be incredibly smart. And so I decided to write one, and I proved that theory wrong. Okay. But it really, I think it's a great thing for any coach, a journey to go through, because you have to ask yourself, what do I believe? Mm-hmm. Where do I stand when it comes to whatever your book's on? Because when you write it down, it becomes history, and it's always, those words cannot change. Yeah. Can you tell us about that book, Erika, and just give us some insight as to what led to you writing your book?
Yeah, sure. And congrats to you, because it's definitely a process. I really enjoyed the process of writing it. Same as you. I couldn't say it better. Like that whole just exercise in really committing to what it is that you believe in is really helpful. So whether it becomes a book or it's just becomes your teaching philosophy, I think that it's really important for teachers to write down what they believe in. And it may evolve over the years, but there's a point where hopefully that truly is the foundation, and that's the consistency that you're going to bring to the lesson tee. So my book is called A True Swing. Oh, just convenient, just have it.
I love it. Unfortunately, when you hold it up on here, it's flipped around.
Oh,
so well, it's like in a mirror, but we can see it. Just like ping is, gnip.
It's all good. Yeah, no. So basically, I was introduced to Ernest Jones as a very early source of information about golf swing. And then that was sort of the message that I kept coming back to in my journey as a teacher is comparing what I was learning at the time when TrackMan came out, when, you know, I went to go see other teachers teach. I studied a little bit of Golf Machine with Lynn Blake, like all these different things. And I kept coming back to how it compared to those basic old school messages that I grew up with and learned. So I just was trying to formulate that in a way that I could bridge the gap between like old school and new school. So I kept trying to get those old school messages to be like validated by new stuff that I had learned. And that's really what the book is about, is trying to relay the golf swing in a simple way to people where they can feel and think about, I call them phases of the swings because I don't really like checkpoints, but different sort of like parts of the swing that feel a certain way with just really like good cues and pressure points or sensations and analogies that come from my own experiences, teaching, stuff I've read, you know, all different places, right? But then also saying, well, why does it work and does it work? And so I challenged those ideas a bit through, you know, some anecdotal times on the lesson tee, but also, you know, with using body track that I had and just seeing like, okay, well, if I make this really natural flowy swing and I'm feeling all these things, what is it really telling me? Is it efficient? And how can I like help people create a swing or move in a way that is going to really reduce manipulation? They can still come back to those core thoughts about swinging the weight of the club, and yet hopefully be a believer that it is good and an efficient way to move. Because I think that a lot of golfers think that that's very fluffy and that it's, you know, there's so much technical information out there and you can get your swing analyzed, you can use biofeedback and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, just maybe those simple messages are enough, especially for the average golfer to not get bogged down with. So, you know, I talk a lot about trying to reduce manipulation in the swing, particularly by the hands and the wrists, in a way that everything's happening more like naturally and automatically, that you can create a swinging motion that automates a lot of the mechanics that people try so hard to force to happen. And if you let the swing happen, that good things will happen. So, you know, letting go, it comes from both a physical standpoint, but also like a little bit of an emotional standpoint. You know, there's 100% that's high. We all know it as coaches that when people are tense or they're nervous or they're self-conscious, that it reflects in their body language. And so why are we nervous? You know, what is the fear factor? It's just golf. Changing your mindset to believe that, you know, the goal here is to swing the club, have fun, and that like to free people up so that they can literally unlock themselves to just enjoy the game a little bit more. And as a result, have better results. So it's a little idealistic, but I break it down and hopefully I sell it in a way that people truly believe by the time they're done with my whole concept that, yeah, like this is going to work. I should go out there and, you know, trust it.
And I like the idea between the blend between Ernest Jones and body track and, you know, old school and some Chris Como new stuff, you know, and you've tried to tie that together. I really do like that, because here's one thing that I've learned is those old people from way back when, they may not have known the depth and exactly why and how things are happening, but they knew how to communicate the right message.
Yes.
And there's got to be in coaching today and in coaching forever, in every sport at every level, there's got to be that message of, well, yes, it might not be simple, but I want you to picture this. I want you to feel this simple message and this simple idea. And let's try to get you to move better and hit better shots and play better golf.
Yeah, I think equipment was really different then, you know, with hickory shafts and things like that. So a part of me wanted to say, all right, like maybe some of those old school concepts were like appropriate then because of the equipment.
Mm.
Or do they still ring true today? You know, swinging the weight of the club, like a feeling that maybe we don't feel it as much today with the way the swing weights have changed and shafts are different, you know, but or is it the same? I think that that's kind of what I was trying to get at, is like, do those old school concepts still hold water in today's era? Like, and the answer to me is 100% yes, because they did get results. And, you know, regardless of what their swings look like or what their equipment, you know, look like, they got results. They were amazing players. Bobby Jones, that whole era, like, you know, so they knew stuff. Whether or not they could measure it, it didn't matter. Now we can measure it. It's more about validating it than it is disputing it, I think. Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And so much of the new stuff, yes, we may understand it better. Yes, we may be able to quantify it, but it's stuff that those trailblazers communicated very nicely. And they shared the message nicely. They got it across and they got people to feel it. And that's one thing I like about, one of the many things I like about your Instagram, is you really do talk a lot about feel, because it is so, golf is a game that we play, and we've got to go out there and we've got to take feels out onto the tee to help us play better golf. Another thing you mentioned, Erika, was when I spoke with Chuck Cook. Chuck said, as a coach, if I look at everything, and yeah, I'm sure you use technology on your tee. I want to ask you a little bit about that. But if I use technology and I've got all this toolbox of knowledge and experience, if I can push that one appropriate button for the student, then all the others light up and everything starts to fall into place.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, I 100%. I have TrackMan at the club I work at, and I have a flight scope here at my house. And, you know, like I have it on and it's running most of the time. If it's a real beginner student, it's not on.
Yeah.
You know, but it depends. If it's somebody I know really well, we've been working together a long time, I may or may not have it on. I mean, I kind of know them, you know, we know their pattern, and we'll check in maybe every other time that we're on the range or something like that. So, you know, in the future, we'll have a learning center built, and if it's there and it's on, then great. But it's, again, depending on whether I'm outdoors, it's not always on, and I'm on the course sometimes, or we're working on short games. So I'm not attached to it at all. But I think it has helped me also get perspective, like having it on and looking at it as the teacher behind the student, you know, seeing the numbers and associating movements and ball flights with numbers has helped me better understand the spectrum of, you know, how extreme or minimal different patterns look versus what is really happening with the numbers that are popping up, you know. So making those associations has been helpful as a coach, to the point where now I feel like I'm looking at swings and I hate to say I can almost predict it.
Yeah.
You know, I still check, but I can almost predict it, like, right? So I'm not going to be cocky like that, but I think that it's great, because some students that really want the information, I'll share the screen with them on my iPad and I'll say, yeah, this is your path, blah, blah, blah. These are the, you know, this is the pattern I'm seeing, and we quantify it. And then we'll work on a feel to help them change the pattern, and then see how much we're moving the needle, you know, that's it. Yeah. And it just gives us a starting point to have those numbers as a reference to compare a half an hour later or an hour later or 2 weeks later. So that's why I like it and I use it, because it baselines people, but I'm not glued to it. And again, I don't feel like I have, sometimes it's nice when it's not there for a student that really wants it, because I force them to just have to take a different route. They've definitely had lessons where, you know, before the lesson, do you have TrackMan? Do you have, and I'm like, yeah, I have it. And then they get there and I don't set it up. I just like have it sitting on the ground, like,
just teasing them.
Like a tease. And then we start the lesson, and maybe I'll video them again just to get a baseline or something. And I don't show them anything. And we go through the lesson, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes. I basically give them the lesson. And then I'll turn the TrackMan on, like at the end, you know, and then show them what their numbers are, like once I've kind of got them going or something. And it's like, it's when they want it so much, it's almost not good, because then they're so focused on that. So yeah, it's a bit of a game. Like it's kind of fun to decide when I want to use it and how I want to use it. Like I need to control that, not the student, you know?
Yeah.
So
coaching people, it's never predictable. It's never the same because everybody's different. You know, everyone's different. And you might have the same person show up one week to the next, but you're gonna deal with them and handle them and teach them a little differently each time
yeah.
based on what you think they need.
Yeah. Yeah. And it may be, you know, they may have a path issue, but I end up working on tempo to fix it. Like, I don't know, just it's where I think, what's that button that's going to change two or
Yeah.
three things? It's not always working on like path and calling it that.
Yeah.
That's just
100% right. You know, an interesting story. I don't know if you watched. I had Tony Fina on last week or earlier this week. It all seems to melt together now. But you know, one of the questions that everybody was saying to me, you got to ask Tony about his backswing. Why is his backswing so short? How did his backswing get so short? And he said, he was actually very forthcoming. And he said, before I even asked him, he said, a lot of people come to me and say, why is your backswing so short? He didn't intentionally shorten his backswing. Him and his coach decided he used to hit high draws that would go an absolute mile, but sometimes they would go off the planet. And he said, okay, we're going to work towards hitting this low bullet fade. And when he tried to create that ball flight, that's how he got his swing shorter. So it's amazing. And that's exactly what you're saying there is, as the coach, an intuitive coach can get a player to change their golf swing by just dropping some ball flight cues, some verbal cues, painting some pictures for a student, and you can get them to make some pretty significant changes without addressing directly that part of the golf swing.
Yeah, I think too, I'm trying to do a better job of this as a coach is, you know, instead of pointing out what's wrong, is just saying what the plan is going to be. You know, it's okay to, I think, identify patterns and communicate that with your students, but presenting it in a way that like, okay, this is what you're doing and it's not wrong, but we want a different result. We have to do something different, as opposed to saying your swing's too flat, or, you know, you're way too into out. Like you have to sell it in a way that you get them to buy in, and it's not so scary, because nobody wants to think that they need a swing overhaul. Nobody wants to hear that. And it's easy to do that as a coach, because you see how many things you probably want to change with somebody, but the way you present it, the way you, I guess, introduce the idea that we're going to do something different is really important. So I try to watch my language, you know, more recently in the last year or two than ever before, is how I'm selling the change that's going to happen. Yeah.
Someone just posted a comment. They said wise. I like that. That's wisdom there. And it comes from experience. It really comes from experience. I love that. Erika, you and I teach the same caliber type genre of golfer typically. Okay. We teach the person who invariably plays once over the weekend maybe, and they want to get better. They typically are not in great physical shape. They're generally a little bit older, and we want to help them. In your experience, what do you think this genre of golfer needs to get better at? The everyday golfer, essentially, is what I'm asking. You know, not juniors, not ladies, not competitive golfers, just the everyday golfer. What's your take?
Gosh.
And I understand everybody's different. But if you're trying to throw out a blanket that covers as many people as possible, what would you say?
Yeah, I don't think that golfer is very in tune with how their club face moves through impact. Like they don't feel it. They're not aware. They don't have that connection of like their hands to the club face.
Yeah.
And so I think that, you know, that golfer could improve the fastest by with smaller swings around the chipping green even, or, you know, half swings a lot on the range, is like understanding how their hands, the way they're putting their hands on the club and the way they feel through impact is affecting ball flight. Like they're just, it's such a, you know, it's a fast moving swing. They're so concerned with the results. they're kind of trying to steer it around as opposed to really like experiencing what's happening. And those golfers are typically don't have the best short games either, right? So I
Yeah.
think there's a correlation there. They don't really understand or have that connection between their hands and the club face. Partially because a lot of them have poor grips, right? Then
Yeah.
now they're hosed to begin with. Like before they even begin, they can't
Yeah.
have a true feeling of what's going on, or it's skewed, and so therefore now we're wondering why there's all these compensations in their swing. And then the other part is, you know, they are, if they're weekend golfers and they have mobility issues and things like that, they're trying to play a level of golf that they shouldn't be, right? So they're forcing it, or they're swinging too hard, and they're trying to keep up with a player that's better than them when they should be trying to swing more within themselves and what they're capable of. And so there's that, especially with guys.
Yes.
So that's a big deal. Just trying to talk people out of that tendency to have their ego dominate their game. Just take a step back, swing the damn club in a way that you can balance and you can control it. And then we can worry about, you know, how far you hit it or how accurate you are trying to be. So
yeah, I like that you said, then we can worry about how far you hit it, because let's just lay this on the table. Gentlemen, if you're watching, I'm sorry, you don't hit it as far as you think. I see it every single day. I see it every single day. And, you know, it's a little topic that I share with my students, and I call it, I put it in this bucket called numbers. And it's so important for us to, if we want to play better golf, if we want to shoot lower scores, we've got to know how far we carry each of our clubs, not total. And then golfers need to be able to understand a little bit about proximity, probability, statistics.
Right.
And if we're wise in that category, certainly as coaches, then I think that's actually a message that the coaching community has under-communicated. That was a tough one. Communicated. We certainly have under-communicated the value of statistics and the value of decision making and the role that those statistics should play in our decision making. Do you use that much in your teaching?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think that if I'm going to try to make an analogy, men generally are way more aggressive and play way more offensively than they should, especially out of their league, right? Like, so you have this high handicapper and they're taking on way too much risk with the shot they're trying to play and what club they're using. Like, just hit the fairway with a 5-iron or, you know, whatever you can. There's going to be way more benefit to you doing that. And then even laying up and trying to chip and putt than hit a driver into the woods and now whatever, right? So, and women, I hate to play the gender thing, but women typically are way more on the defense than they should be. You know, they play it too safe, or they don't swing aggressively enough, and they don't relax because they're so worried about like doing something wrong, or like what somebody's going to think of the way they swing, or they're worried about messing up, or what their husband's going to say, or what being slow and somebody's on my ass and the whole thing, right? So like that's like two different mindsets is a little stereotypical, but that's what we see a lot. And so women would benefit from being a little bit more aggressive in a lot of ways, right? And men less, just trying to find that balance of what works for you and what's appropriate for your skill level. But
That's awesome.
Decision making, shot selection, club selection is a big deal. I don't lay out a million statistics, but sometimes to prove a point, definitely I'll do that with certain golfers. And as I play with them on the golf course, you know, saying what percentage wise makes sense for their skill level, what kind of shots they should hit. So yeah, do you do a lot of that? I do.
With my 3-day golf school students, I do quite a bit of that. And I must say, you said go out on the golf course. It is mind-boggling, some of the decisions that I get to witness with students out on the golf course. It really, really is. And someone said it, I think it may have been Mark Blackburn a while back. He said, you've got two 15 handicappers. One of those 15 handicappers is this person who's a good athlete. They've got speed. They hit it all over the place. They don't really pay attention. They make these overly aggressive plays. And then the other 15 handicapper is a person who doesn't have much speed. They might not be as athletic as the other person. They've got all the apps. They understand all the numbers. They're doing as much as they can to get everything out of their golf game. And they're a 15 handicapper. And it's, as a coach, I always find it interesting teaching those two genres of golfers, because for the first player who's just wild and all over, if you can get that golfer to be a little bit more inside the track,
conservative,
yes, conservative, and just think a little better and make some better decisions, hit that 5-iron off the tee every now and then, they're going to improve a tremendous amount. The other golfer, certainly as a coach, that's a little bit more of a challenge, because you've got to understand the person and find those weaknesses to be able to help that individual play some better golf and lower their score.
Yeah, and I think building confidence with that golfer is a big deal. You know, getting them to do stuff on the range or on the course where they prove to themselves that they can do it. That golfer doesn't trust themselves, right? And maybe for good reason, but then that's where they need to focus. They need to have that more preparation. They have to feel more prepared because they're analytical. They have to feel like they're prepared. They've done it. They've proved it to themselves before they can debut it on the golf course, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And Erika, you said something a minute ago. You said, you used the word gender. Okay. And I certainly don't want to paint this picture at all. And that's really why I want to talk to you about it, because at the PGA show, we had a little discussion pertaining to this topic, and it's really gender bias when it comes to coaching. And oftentimes ladies feel like they've got to be coached by a lady, and men feel like they've got to be coached by a man. And I really think it's rooted in this old school way. Well, we've always done it, and golf in particular tends to be that old school traditional way of thinking. I certainly would like to do what I can to change that mindset. And what's your take on that? I said to you at the something came up. Somebody said something to you, and they said something along the lines of, oh, well, you can teach our ladies golf section or something. And you weren't too pleased with that approach. Give us some insight, would you please? Let's set the record straight. Come on.
Yeah, we're opening a little Pandora's box maybe. But I mean, I think that a lot of golfers, let's say just even on Instagram, who might be watching me, or, let's say friends of my husband or something like that, they might say, oh, where do you teach? And, oh, do you teach men? It's like,
yeah,
I teach men. And
that's golf. You teach golf.
It's just golf. I teach golf. I teach whoever, and then from another perspective, the fact that I'm a director of instruction, I'm the lead teacher at my facility.
Awesome.
I teach all kinds of, levels of players. I get some of the more, high level players, better scratch players to come and take some lessons from me. Certainly teach my fair share of juniors and new ladies and all of it. I teach a little bit of everybody, and I love the variety of who I teach, and I feel like I am good at adapting to all different players. So I do. That stereotype annoys me, but a lot of times it comes from a little bit of an ignorant, standpoint. People just don't know. They make assumptions.
Yeah.
But then again, from an industry standpoint, I think private clubs in particular, it benefits them to have a female pro on staff, because at some level it does help service the female members to feel more comfortable. There's somebody in the shop that they may feel is more approachable for lessons or for anything, right? So I get that. There's a lot of great male professionals that are great with ladies, so it's not an absolute, but it is nice for clubs to have a female professional on staff for that reason, right? But then, when that female gets hired, sometimes there's the automatic assumption that they're just going to take over the entire women's program and they'll just teach the ladies and the kids. And so I have seen it happen many times over with colleagues, but being able to break through and show that you can teach anybody, and you're getting results with all different kinds of players. Sometimes that takes time as a female in this business. And because there's always male professionals at facilities, guys may have a tendency to gravitate more towards them first.
Mm.
So I don't know. I don't know that it's like right or wrong. It's just the way it is. And you have to find a coach that you're comfortable with regardless of gender. And I've had male
Well said.
students, yeah, you have to, yeah, I've had male students seek me out because they've said, you know, I've had better success with female coaches over the years. I don't know why. You know, because their approach is a little bit softer, or maybe the student feels less intimidated when they come take a lesson from a female coach, or maybe maybe my communication is better than other male coaches that they've had.
Most
Again,
likely.
we talk about that ego thing. I mean, there's a lot of amazing male coaches out there, you included, that wouldn't fall into this, but there are some that, you know, they take over the lesson, or they might, you know, demonstrate shots that the golfer could never hit. And it's almost like, you know, then the student feels intimidated, or kind of like shy about them, his ability to hit good shots, or to try to, I don't know, like impress his coach. There's no impressing anybody. I'm here to help. Like,
yeah,
no, it's not about what I know. It's what you're going to learn, and what I'm going to help guide you to hopefully discover about yourself. And I don't know, maybe it's, again, the mindset of a female coach versus male, or it's just coach to coach. I'd like to think it's that. It's just that what coach is going to click with the student regardless of gender. But there are definitely stereotypes out there. So it's a very interesting topic. And yeah, that's, I mean, from the coaching side, that's my 2 cents on that. I think that having, you know, written my book, I didn't write it for women. I wrote it for golfers.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make that clear. Like, even on the cover, it's interesting. Like, when I did the cover, I have a silhouette here that's very like ambiguous.
Yeah.
Just, you know, like neutral. I don't know. It doesn't show any long hair, but you could say it's a guy, but is it? I don't know. I didn't want it to look feminine. I didn't want it to look masculine. I wanted it to be really neutral. I did that on purpose. The colors, the graphics, like, you know, I can't help that I'm inside the book, pictures of me demonstrating stuff, but like at the end of the day, I didn't want that. And I hopefully can, you know, transcend that label of being a women's coach. And I feel a responsibility that I should empower more women to play. Like, that has to be part of my narrative, because we want to grow the game. I want women to feel welcome. I want them to feel like they can use me as a resource. But when I look at a student, I'm not teaching them differently because they're male or female. I'm teaching them for the human being that's standing in front of me. So there could be women with super big boobs, and there could be a guy with a super big beer belly. And guess what? There's the same issue. Like, you know, just because a woman's built a certain way, or their joints are built a certain way, well, there's guys that are built a certain way. Like, how are you built, and how can I help you move better, regardless of gender? So I really don't look at it that way. There's guys that are emotionally a little bit more, you know, soft and shy, and there's women that are really type A that I've met, like super aggressive and like, you know, very demanding and like very antagonistic. Like, I've seen it all, right? So like, I'm there to teach the golfer that's in front of me. So I just hope to kind of break through that, and honestly, from like yourself included, like, earn the respect of my peers because of what I'm teaching and how I'm teaching, not who I'm teaching.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. I'm so glad. I'm going to be able to record that and post that for people to watch for years to come, because that is awesome. That's exactly the way it should be. And I always say to people, the golf ball doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know who you are. It's going to respond to your golf club according to the laws of physics. And if we can improve physics, whether you're male, female, black, white, Christian, Muslim, the golf ball doesn't care. It doesn't care, and it just responds accordingly. Okay, Erika, a question about your golf swing, because your golf swing is significantly better than mine. How did that happen? How did you, you really have a great looking golf swing.
Oh, thank you.
Do. Yeah, I got to see it a bunch on Instagram when I was looking at all these posts.
Thanks.
Do you work on your golf much? Do you play a lot? Do you take lessons? What do you do to keep up with your game?
Oh, I need to play a lot more golf. I feel like when I go out, I don't score as well as I'd like to, because you know how it is. Like, when you're not playing and putting it all together back to back to back, like round after round, you just kind of lose your rhythm out there. I mean, I can tee it up and do okay, but not as well as I would like. Shot making and, you know, hitting shots in practice and for in front of the camera and for students, like I get enough practice in and around lessons that I feel, you know, okay about my skills. But I don't necessarily like work hard on my own game. I don't take time to like, I don't take that hour in the morning before my lessons start to come early and practice or stay late. And I would like to do more because I would, but then I also have a family at home. So there's just so much to juggle that my own game is not a priority.
Yeah. If we had the 28-hour day,
yeah,
we could find some time.
We would probably just teach more, but
yeah.
No, I think like the last 6 months I had I had a little bit of hip pain and stuff, and I was trying to get back in the gym and get a little stronger again, and I really was frustrated when I would hit shots in the last like year or so. Like I just felt like I was losing some distance, and I think it was related to, you know, just physical loss of muscle and stuff. So as I've gotten in the gym more consistently now over the last 6 to 8 months, and I've gotten stronger again, I've put a little more focus into what it's going to take for me to get back some of the speed that I think I've lost over the years. So I have actually paid a little more attention to my swing. Not that I'm putting a lot of time and energy into practicing, but you know, I've dived a little deeper into what speed and distance really is, and it's been an interesting little journey. I kind of want to continue on this because for what my philosophy is about being natural and flowy and like swing the weight of the club and all this stuff, then like what happens when you're trying to hit it farther? You know, what is I've always said I want to teach people to have effortless power and not use powerful effort. Yeah. But there's a point when you're trying to truly up the bar of what effortless feels like, that you have to go through this process of actually putting in some effort and, you know, engaging muscle groups and building muscle and building speed. And so how does that relate into my own philosophy? I'm kind of challenging myself with this as a little personal journey. So for me, you know, there are mechanical things I am thinking about and working on, trying to strengthen my lower body and the speed of my overall rotation.
Didn't you do one of those those speed courses with?
Yeah, I did Mach 3 at
Michael Romanowski.
I really liked it. I've been working a little bit with the Orange Whip guys with their Power Peel and Golf Fitness X platform, and Brian Newman. I'm going to be actually doing some more work with those guys with some content. I think that's kind of a cool, almost Peloton-like model for golf fitness. I like Mach 3. I mean, there's so much out there, different training clubs. I have a whole collection now of stuff that I've accumulated over the last 6 months to a year, like just on this topic, because it's a hot topic, number one, and I want to be on it. But two, I also, for personal gain, so I can then relay the information and decide what I like the best, what's helped me and my students more, because I've already started introducing some of it with people over this winter, what's working. And I'm on like a little, you know, curious new journey, and using myself as a guinea pig as well as some students to try and test some of the concepts and see what it's going to take to build speed without making it feel like it's a ton of effort. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I like what you said, that there will be times, if you're trying to build speed, there will be times where you've got to feel like you're pouring everything you've got into that in order to get to a point where it feels effortless.
Yes. What I relate it to, because of the gym experience now and stuff that I've had, is when you're trying to increase how much weight you can bench press or whatever, right? You up your weight little by little. You have to play with the amount of reps that you're doing. And there's days where you're going to do high weight and low reps or max out. Yeah. Right. And so the process of overall being able to bench press more, let's use that as an example, takes weeks or months. But every so often you're upping what you can max out. Right. So let's say I could max out at 50 pounds week 1, and then maybe by week 4 or 5 or 8 or 10, I'm maxing out at, I don't know, 80. So when I finally raise the bar, literally, of like how much I can max out at, what I can do for 10 reps also elevates, right? And so
Yeah.
it's much easier to all of a sudden bench press 50 pounds where that was what I was maxing out at a month ago. So it feels effortless, what used to
Yeah.
feel very much like hard.
Yeah.
I barely do maybe one rep. So I think that's a good analogy. With speed training and like distance training for golf is something has to change, and it might need to feel hard for a while, but then you're raising the bar so that your baseline or your like average club head speed also comes up, and that starts to feel effortless. It's like your new normal. So
Cool.
yeah, I think it's
love
a good process. I'm trying to like go through it myself and then understand the mechanics a little bit more. Definitely trying to use the ground better. I think that you know, just specifically like I wasn't using my feet and my legs enough to power kind of like through impact. I get a little slappy. And that's because I'm always trying to be like loose, right? So I to a fault.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one thing we've learned certainly over it seems like the last 5 or 6 years is the importance of speed, the value of speed. But then I was always under the impression that your speed is kind of your speed. You know, so you got long hitters and short hitters and everyone's kind of there. But it really is enlightening to see, to me as a coach, how much golfers can actually increase their speed if it's something they attack directly. And that's just what you're talking about there. Erika, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday and getting away from the family. Oh, it's still there. I'm sure it's still warm.
It's still warm.
Oh, fantastic. You gotta sell those cups. Do you get a free cup with a copy of your book?
You know, maybe I'll start to do the bundle, or I got to contact this company and see if I can get a little affiliate program going.
Hey, Erika, where can people track your book down?
Yeah, on Amazon or directly on my website. A link is in my bio at erikalarkin.com.
Okay.
It's called A True Swing. And yes, I'm happy to help and all of the above. Please reach out if you have questions. There were questions we missed, so if people want to DM me, please do.
There's one I wanted to ask. Good editing apps.
Yeah.
You use this primarily on your phone or your iPad or laptop?
Yes. The main one that I use, like 80–90% of the time, is called InShot. It's free unless you want to pay for extra features. And it's, you know, worth it either way. So that's the main one I use. I use iMovie. And then, you know, there's other ones like just Pick Collage and different things where I'll like do little, and I'll import other clips into InShot. So I definitely use a bunch of apps, but that's the main one that I use. Very simple to use. I also have subscribed to Epidemic Sound. There's a bunch out there, but Epidemic Sound is a website where you can have a subscription to use copyright-free music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Great info. I thank you so much for joining us. You are awesome, and I cannot encourage everybody enough to follow you. Keep up the great work. Keep inspiring golfers to play better golf. And thanks for everything.
Thank you, Andrew, for the opportunity to be on your show. See you soon.
Thanks. Stay safe. Cheers. Thanks for everything.
Thank you. Bye.